Okay, people, welcome to Winner Take All, where I talk about some of the most awesome manga chapters of the week. And in this roster this week, we have three absolute bangers. We have, of course, One Piece 1059. Oh, we're gonna talk, don't worry. We got Black Clover 337, kind of a shocker. And then we got Jujutsu Kaisen, just absolute insanity of chapter 197. I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's jump into these bad boys because we've got a lot to talk about, don't we? I must go, must leave this house. I must go, the time is now. I must go, it's time to get out. And just quickly, before we jump into the rest of this video, please hit that subscribe button and that bell to get notified. We drop this show every Sunday, and we talk about a wide variety of anime and manga over here on this channel. So I'd appreciate you joining up and hitting that subscribe button. Now, let's jump into it because, fam, I had to start this one off with the GOAT One Piece Greatness Chapter 1059 because the Koby incident, okay? The Captain Koby incident. Ave Maria. I ain't gonna lie, I had to break out the little bit of Spanish there for this one because holy cow. I'm gonna say it straight up and down. This chapter in particular, I felt so much more impact than even some of the climax chapters of the Wano arc. Like, it just felt like Oda was like, enough is enough, and considering we're in the final saga, we're in the final stretch of the series, he was like, man, let's bring out the big guns, because it's been like chapter after chapter where we're starting to see yet again some of the big key players. Of course, I believe it was last chapter we seen a little bit of Dragon, and now in this one is like, yo, Blackbeard, Hancock, Koby, what the hell is going on? Yeah, because again, this chapter is indeed called the Captain Koby incident. And yo, let's start from the top though, because it starts off with Marco pretty much gallivanting around slightly with the red-haired pirates, Shanks' crew, and I loved the idea, and I only could imagine the possibilities of Marco joining their crew. Like, they pretty much were all gung-ho about like, yo, no, come on, just join up. And realistically, Marco was one of the key players over on Whitebeard's crew. Imagine if he would be rocking with Shanks. I mean, granted, on a prideful aspect and morals and principles and all that, probably ain't the best look to be like, yo, dog, I just went from one emperor to the next, you know what I'm saying? So realistically, having respect for Whitebeard and stuff like that, he probably ain't gonna go and rub elbows with Shanks on that level. Of course, you know, he hopped on his ship and he took the ride, so to speak, but he wasn't gonna be like, yeah, dog, I'm jumping on your crew now. As epic as that was, and I guess it also goes into the principle of things of like why Law didn't go with Luffy and stuff like that, because easily a lot of fans would have loved for Law to have joined the Straw Hat Pirates, but yeah, it's principles, morals, respect, you know what I'm saying? And then it cuts over to something that Oda felt like probably he should address. He probably seen the signs coming that fans were going to be upset, because realistically, you know, the manga usually there's about 2 to 3 chapters sometimes in the bag while a chapter comes out, so it's not like he's responding to the fan backlash, so to speak, about Yamato. He probably knew that fans were going to be a little bit pissed off of like, dog, you teased us for so long, and the whole point of Wano and Yamato's character was she wants to rock with Luffy, she wants to be a pirate. What happened? Why she stood behind? And I believe I did say for the most part that her main reasonings was going to be, yo, they need her. It's irresponsible to leave from Wano when we just saw what happened with Green Bull. And that's pretty much what she explains to Luffy of, yo, if it wasn't for that dude offshore that stopped Green Bull, it would have been problematic. They need me here right now, although she desperately would love to go with Luffy, and I can imagine just how sad it must feel for her in a strange way of like, I gotta put my dreams on hold for a little bit longer. And also it explains as to why she told Momo, yeah, I gotta live like Odin, because she even tells Luffy like, yeah, I gotta give him a different reason. You know, Luffy's like, he's a prideful one, so the reason that she gave was pretty much a crock, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't legit. She wasn't really doing this because Odin, you know what I'm saying, rode through Wano before he left. It's more so, y'all need me for right now. But once Momonosuke really starts to come into his own, and he's able to really, you know, control his dragon form, and he's truly capable of holding down Wano, then probably Yamato could go. How long will that be? I hope it's not like at the end, considering we're in the final stretch of it anyways. We're in the final saga. We got a few more years left with this series. I hope it's not at the tail end that Yamato comes in and we're at the final war and she's like, hey, I'm a, you know, pirate now, I'm a straw hat. that, like, please don't let that be the case. Please let it be that Yamato is, let's just say even a year from now, we hear word that, I don't know, somebody else that rocks with Wano came through and kind of gave the go-ahead, like, I'll hold it down, don't worry, you can go. Something along the lines of that, because it's still disappointing. I just keep it a buck. Even though we got a logical explanation that, yo, dog, it's pretty much irresponsible to leave right now when they need me, I still wanted Yamato for Straw Hat, and I'm very disappointed regardless. So I gotta be honest with you. Don't get me wrong. This chapter, mwah, there was so many amazing moments, but that part, regardless of the explanation, I'm still there like, what, dog? Oda set this up for years now, bro. It's been years. Why? And one of my favorite moments of the beginning of this chapter was when Marco was speaking to Luffy and tells Luffy, yo, Ace would be proud of you right now, because, you know, that's very, very impactful and meaningful to Luffy, especially after losing Ace, and, you know, Marco being there at the scene, and Marco, of course, knowing Ace being with the Whitebeard pirates and whatnot. It probably hit hard for Luffy there, and I love just seeing him smile and everything. Like, Luffy been through some shit because of losing his brother and stuff like that, so that was a very nice touch that Oda added and gave a little more to Luffy's, I guess, growth and him feeling a certain way, you know what I'm saying? Just especially after the massive battle that he had on Wano, it's almost like a little trophy for him in a weird way of like, Ace would be proud of you, bro. Your big bro that you love, he would rock with how you become. But then we cut to some of the stuff that Oda has been holding out on, because how long ago was it now that we had all of these things where the Marines were attacking the warlords, and little by little Oda just basically cut away from all of it to focus in on Wano. And Oda's like, oh yeah, by the way, a few weeks ago, you know that stuff where like when you saw Koby going to Amazon Lily, let's finally see what happened. And I was like, yo, this shit was epic, because alone it starts off with showcasing that the Marines, yeah, they got some new pacifistas, which totally makes sense. Now it completely kind of forms the picture of, well, what was it? Why did they just decide to flip on the warlords? I doubt it would be a case of morality, like, yo, we shouldn't be rocking with pirates. Like, yeah, I've been using them this entire time. What the hell is going on? Why would you decide to now say, screw them, we don't need them anymore, unless y'all got something even stronger or something better, something more under your control? And these new pacifistas, which I believe we saw 2 of them throughout the chapter, maybe more. I definitely would say we saw 2 of them that was just absolutely wreaking havoc on Amazon Lily, and I ain't gonna lie, well played to the government. They figured they killed 2 birds with 1 stone, getting rid of the warlords, going after them, and dun 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 dun. I mean, it's clear as day. I'm sure like you feel the same way if you're reading the chapter, that it looks like they cloned the warlords. I mean, one of them alone, later on in the chapter we'll talk about it, Boa Hancock look-alike, and then another one, I was like, wait a minute, are they trying to say Mihawk? Are they trying to say, like, is that a young king? Like, what are we doing here, dog? Lunarians? Like, this chapter blew my freaking mind. I was like, Oda, yo! But then, as the pacifistas are there wreaking havoc, another threat shows up to Amazon Lily in the form of Blackbeard. Oh my god, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, oh, because Blackbeard and his crew show up, and he's like, yo, dog, I ain't letting the Marines get their hands on that power. I've been wanting that power for a minute. And very much so, Blackbeard and his crew's fashion, I mean, they were just outright vile and disgusting, talking about what they're gonna do to her, like, let's have our way with her first. And then I was just there like, you nasty motherfuckers. That's why Blackbeard and them are probably the truest form of what we've heard about pirates throughout time, of, you know, them just being vile, nasty creatures. Like, Blackbeard is it. That's the form of pirates that I've heard since I was younger. He and his crew are scum, and makes for the great villain that he is. But again, let's not forget that Koby was there, and Koby's not surprised. And I'll be honest with you, part of me was wishing that Koby was a little bit more advanced from where he's at right now. Of course, he's a captain, but power-wise, let's be real here, Blackbeard and them showing up, what is Koby really gonna do? Koby's gotten stronger, of course, he's advanced. Oda's played with his height a lot. He went from like this to woohoo, but yeah, it's not really gonna do too much against Blackbeard. And I was like, damn, if he had a few more years under his belt, would he have been able to rock Blackbeard's world right there? Like, how things would have went if it was a little more experience under his belt, because of course Koby is pretty much like, you know, the Marine Luffy in terms of that kid with the dream and all of that good stuff. But shout outs to Boa Hancock, because she's facing 2 two immense threats. She got the Marines that are there with new pacifistas, and on top of that, Blackbeard and his crew. And when Koby's like, yo, come on, dog, just surrender, we'll stop and everything, she's like, fuck out of here. You think I'm gonna be giving? I ain't giving up to shit. That's my girl right there. That's why Luffy is going to one day wife that up. I'm just saying, it's bound to happen. But then, to Blackbeard's surprise, and this is where the plot thickens and definitely goes into the whole clone quote-unquote theory, although it doesn't feel like a theory, is when Blackbeard is shocked at the look of the new pacifistas, because obviously they were just using like a bunch of Kuma clones for the longest time, but he sees now these basically children, and he's taken back because they have brown skin, white hair, and black wings, similar to the Lunarians, that of which we've learned during, Wano, everything with King and his backstory and whatnot. So pretty much these new pacifistas are part Lunarian, but then on top of that, at the very least, one of them, like I said, we'll talk about it a little later, looks a little like Boa Hancock. Another one of them that I was looking at the design, I was like, yo, that kind of looks a little bit like maybe King when he was younger. Like, again, what's going on here? And how did they get, maybe, okay, Boa Hancock, the warlord, they probably planned it out. Anytime they ever met, easy to take a follicle of hair, boom, we're gonna make a clone. But how would you get your hands on some of these other people? Unless, again, some people were theorizing Mihawk. And it shows even further that, yeah, the world government made the right choice of making these new pacifistas, because pretty much they started taking down a shit ton of Blackbeard's people, and all sorts of things was happening there. And I was like, check from the government, I guess, right? It's not checkmate, but there was definitely a check move. And Blackbeard's showing off that he's no slouch by any means, using his black hole, and at the same time, Boa using her freaking stone power, or her cursed slave power, turning people to stone. I ain't gonna lie, whenever they animate this, they better give it that special animation, because this was just absolute madness. And my gosh, I still can't get over the fact that this was an amazing chapter. Again, Oda, yeah. But I immediately start to notice that there is definitely a chink in their armor, because one of the things that Koby says is he has to order and, basically demand the pacifistas to stop, because after all of, a lot of those Marines like Helmeppo and them were turned to stone, if they keep rocking around, they're going to start breaking apart some of the even Marines, and they're supposed to be on the side of the Marines. So the fact that they're so reckless, obviously, one, they're children, whether they're clones or not, they're still children, so they're not going to be the best to control, even though if they're adults, then they just get another mindset of, yo, who the fuck you think you're controlling, bro? Like, you out of your mind. So that's also another animal altogether. But that's probably going to be something that is going to affect the world government in a bad way, that they're not easy to control. I mean, if they're freaking wrecking pieces of Blackbeard's crew and stuff like that, they're not weak. So you add that they're very freaking strong, they're seemingly Lunarians, and then on top of that, you add the fact that they're hard to control, and the world government probably made a mistake. They probably created another threat that, unlike the warlords that were just happy with, y'all not gonna hunt us no more, we can still be cool, whatever, fine. You're not gonna be able to do that to these Lunarian brats. But then, probably the most shocking page of the entire chapter, suddenly Blackbeard has Boa Hancock by the neck, choking her, and I'm like... After years of being in Wano, and I'm not trying to diss Wano by any means, but, when One Piece goes into these island-centric arcs that, hey, we're on another island, hey, we got to deal with the problems that are based on that island, it kind of is different than when you're going into the things that really affect the grand scheme of things, which, yes, of course, Wano affected the grand scheme of things, but it's just different levels to it, you know what I'm saying? Like, fighting in the Udon prison ain't gonna feel the same and have the same stakes as Blackbeard choking Boa Hancock. But Boa, and this is why even Koby says that, like, yo, I didn't realize it, but she got basically an ace in the hole. She tells Blackbeard, yo, you kill me, all your peoples, your little buddies there, they stay stoned forever. Even if you take this power, whoever gets this power is not going to be able to undo what I've done. So, yeah, you still want to go, buddy? And I'm like, oh, man, just imagine when Luffy gets word of this. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to add this thing of Luffy being this romantic at heart or anything like that, but I'd imagine if he found out, he'd probably be a little pissed off, same way he would be with anybody. I mean, look at what he did to Arlong all the way in Arlong Park, and he barely knew Nami. Boa Hancock is practically thrown throwing her freaking self at him at every turn. So yeah, I think Luffy ain't gonna take too kindly to Blackbeard choking his woman out. And then it felt like it started getting a little political, but in a very interesting way, when Blackbeard is talking to Koby and he's like, how about it, huh, Captain Hero guy? You think that if I let her go, she'll, you know, undo this stuff? And Koby tries his best to say, well, it will be a problem if my guys aren't unpetrified as well. But the nasty creep motherfucker that Blackbeard is like, well, I'm being real. I don't buy it. Fanboy mode. Because Blackbeard is pretty much like, nah, think I'll kill her. And if it isn't for the legendary GOAT himself, Silver's Rayleigh showing up, probably would have killed her, and it'd probably be a different tale right about now. But Rayleigh showing up, I was a little bit thrown off by it, I guess. I mean, it seemingly was that Boa Hancock had called him over, and of course they had somewhat of a camaraderie. They were all a part of, you know, setting Luffy on his training quest in between the time skip and whatnot. So I guess they have somewhat of a relationship, enough for her to say, yo, they coming, bro, come save me. And Silver's Rayleigh showing up, I'll be honest with you, I guess maybe it was also my own naivety when Silver's Rayleigh is like, yo, Hancock, undo the petrification, he's gonna let you go, don't worry. And everything went all hunky-dory, and that was mainly due to his legacy, his name, who he is, that Blackbeard let her go. Because if not, he probably, and even then, when Silver's Rayleigh said this line, a part of me was like, I didn't want to believe it, even though it makes sense realistically. Blackbeard is real freaking strong. He got the Yami no Mi, and he got the Quake power, and he got his whole, like, he's a broken ass dude at this point. But when Rayleigh was like, no, I probably couldn't have taken him, I'm old, dog, I probably would have lost if I went. It was thanks to my reputation that I was able to squash it right there. I was like, I don't want to believe it. The Dark King? No. I'm gonna pretend I did not see that line. I'm sorry. I know hear no nonsense. Because that basically solidifies that Blackbeard is on a whole different level. Although I'd imagine Rayleigh in his prime, we'd be talking a different story. Blackbeard probably be quaking in his little, you know, Yami no Mi fruit boots. And also shout outs to Rayleigh saying, yeah, it might be a little immature, but you was that dude that was on Whitebeard's crew, right? I don't like you. I was like, hey, I feel you, bruh. I feel you. I don't like traitorous, backstabbing pieces of shit neither. And as they start talking, they're saying, oh, it makes sense, the warlords were being replaced by these pacifista, and Boa Hancock's sisters are like, but why that one in particular looked like Big Sis when she was little? It basically looked like Boa when she was little, which goes all into the whole theory of they cloned the warlords, and maybe even more, who knows, every top pirate that they could get their hands on, potentially they cloned them, and we're about to see kid versions that are super broken, strong, and loosely under the control of the world government in big brawls. And that's just more of like, makes me question what Oda's doing here, because if we're trying to wrap things up, you adding in this extra layer, like, we got a lot of things to tackle in the final saga. Let's not forget that we still have Weevil, the freaking, you know what I'm saying, Whitebeard son wannabe and shit like that. We got a lot of things to tackle. Adding in these little badasses, they look cool as shit. Some of them have theories and whatnot, but Oda, you're adding more to the plate, and we got a lot to tackle, so we can wrap this bad boy up and go sailing. And the chapter ends off with finding out that Blackbeard abducted Koby, Captain Koby. So despite Rayleigh's reputation, he was not able to stop. Like, he was able to save Boa, but couldn't help Koby. And because he's, you know, a Marine, pretty much, I'd imagine Koby wouldn't want to be saved by Rayleigh anyway. He probably went willingly. Probably Blackbeard was like, alright, I'll let this bitch go, fine, whatever, but you get over here. And Koby, yeah, this is gonna be very interesting. I honestly thought that Oda might be setting up for maybe at some given point a rescue Luffy type finale, because that sounds like that'd be grandiose. But a rescue Koby arc, like, how's that gonna work? Like, because we also know that the Marines, they're not like the pirates. Like, yo, when Ace got wrapped up and shit like that, how many people showed up? The whole Whitebeard crew, Luffy, eventually Shanks, even though it wasn't for Ace, but yo, everybody showed up. Are the Marines gonna go full throttle against Blackbeard, or is Akainu gonna say, he's just a low-level captain, let's not worry about him right now? I could very well see that being the case, and Luffy and his peoples is probably going to be the only ones that would go for it. Luffy himself would be like, I like that kid. That kid, you know what I'm saying? We have a little something there. We got to go save him. Although, I don't know how the Straw Hats will react to that, because that's endgame right now. Essentially, that's setting up an endgame situation. So we might not see Koby again, aside from when he's in the clutches of Blackbeard, for the remainder of the series. Like, this might be it for Koby. This might be his legacy, being captured by Blackbeard. Like, insanity. Honestly, again, and I might have said this in the last week's one, well, the last one that we had One Piece in, but it feels like one of my favorite and one of the best and most intense chapters of One Piece this year as well. Like, some of this stuff is topping Climax Wano shit, which is kind of nuts to think about, but then also you could argue that says something about some of the stuff in the Climax of Wano, I guess. Like, these are just intermission chapters and they're just so iconic. I guess it also speaks to just Oda's ability to just cook, man. Like, this was insane. Very curious what you guys think. I guess the biggest question is, what's up with those pacifists? Are they clones of the warlords and others? That other one that kind of, was that like Mihawk, or was that like, who was that? Was that King? Like, your thoughts on that? Was that a Boa Hancock clone as well? Like, yo, and Koby being abducted. Do you think that this is basically setting up for Endgame of when it's time for Luffy to go against Blackbeard? He's also gonna do it to save Koby. Yo, this is nuts. I ain't gonna lie. I'm ready for the next one, Oda. Can we get it right now? You know, we gotta wait a week, right? Weekly Shonen Jump. God damn it. Arrgh! Your overall thoughts and expectations for One Piece with chapter 1060. God damn, that was an amazing chapter. I loved it. Wow. Rayleigh, I'm still gonna call Cap. I don't care. I'm calling Caparoni on that one, dog. Nah, you would have thrown hands with Blackbeard. I think you would have. Dark King, no. And while One Piece was absolutely insane, we got a different level of insanity because Black Clover chapter 337. Dog, fam, familia. Last week when we got that whole cliffhanger that Asta's been sent away, where is he? Nobody knows. A lot of people called it. I definitely called it that he was in the land of the rising sun. Personally, it feels to me like maybe there was some plans to do something else or something like that, because I remember there was a big announcement that we were going to be going to a new territory with the Black Clover manga by like one of the editors. It was like an interview or something like that, and then it kind of went mum. We ain't hear nothing about it. And then now Asta's in the land of the rising sun in Yami's home country. So more than likely Tabata, because now we're in the final arc, decided, well, it's a happy medium. I'm not gonna do probably the big Japan arc and, you know, all of that stuff, basically getting like a Wano and Black Clover. So the next best thing is, yo, let's just blast Asta's ass over there to Yami's hometown. But the chapter starts off with the Black Bulls. They're training at their base. They don't have a clue as to what the hell went down. They were just on a reconnaissance mission to basically get rid of any of the devils around the kingdom. And they're training, and Nock shows up like, hey guys, what's up? Yo, Asta's dead, dog, for real. Well, not quite like that, but yeah, he pretty much was just straight up like, yo, Asta's dead, dog. Shit is wild out here. And maybe I just don't remember it, but when did Magna have such like a disdain towards Noct? I mean, I get it. Noct has been very obnoxious, and of course I'm more than likely just misremembering stuff from like the last arc early on, but yeah, Magna was not too fond of him. When we had Gray there saying like, hey, you know, Vice Captain said to be quiet, he's like, I don't give a fuck. But once Nock says, yo, Asta's dead, fam, everyone, including Magna, are shocked to hear. And I'm not gonna lie, I almost felt like it was deja vu, because there's been a couple of times now where Tabata has played with this idea of the Black Bulls hearing that Asta's dead, something horrible happened to Asta, which I guess it goes all into their whole family dynamic and their camaraderie of like, if Asta's in trouble, they're going to save the little knucklehead. And it's also interesting, and I really wish Tabata would dive even more into Nock's character. I get it, last arc we got a lot of Noct or whatever, but I love how he compartmentalizes like his feelings and facts and stuff like that. He's like, yo, facts wise, it is what it is. He's dead. That's the reality of it. However, I don't believe it, and until I see a body, fam, I'm gonna go find this little dumbass. So I love how Noct, he's able to basically put aside like, yeah, it's the fact that he was blasted away. We don't know really what happened. It just seems that he's dead and he's pronounced dead. But no, until I see a body, I'm gonna go look for him. So that's like the duality of the asshole that he ultimately was to kind of the humanity within him, because, you know, I pretty much waved the white flag at this point in terms of, is Noct gonna be evil? Like, he's not evil. He's just an asshole. And so the Black Bulls are off to go find Asta, throwing in a theory right now. At some given point, they're probably going to get to the land of the rising sun as Asta is pretty much readying his departure. So it'll probably be a very quick thing. Like maybe, I don't know, Noct sticks his hand out of the portal like, oh, it's too far. Just give me your hand, Asta. Come on. Or something along the lines of that. Unless Tabata pulls a straight up One Piece Wano and the Black Bulls all show up and they're all there in, you know, Yami's homeland, and they're going undercover. Like, oh my god, if we get a Wano and Black Clover, I don't know how I'd feel about that. Part of me is like, hey, you know, Tabata said he was gonna do this arc, yeah, but then a part of me is like, we just got done with Wano. Do I really want another one? Because Asta awakens and there's a Charmy looking robot thingy majig that he even mistakes for Charmy at first, and no, it's just like some robot that pours him a drink or something along the lines of that. And we're immediately introduced to this dude with an eye patch that suspiciously looks like Yami and asks Asta, hey, how you doing, fam? And I'm gonna just say off rip that even though his ki doesn't represent any animosity, so to speak, it doesn't feel like, you know, he's adversarial, I feel like something is off here. There's definitely some misinformation of sorts that's going on, and I don't 100% trust what's happening here. Again, his ki isn't threatening per se, but that doesn't mean that this dude isn't manipulative or that he's not able to control his ki. For all we know, he's hiding his ki of who he truly is. Maybe he's able to morph it. We don't know everything about ki. We only know from what Asta has learned from Yami, and Yami, from what we find out in this chapter, hasn't been in his homeland that taught him about ki since he was like 13. Homie basically tells Asta, oh, your wound, I don't know no mimosa, but your wound, yeah, a friend of mine healed it. I don't got that type of power, but my friend healed it. And we also hear that Lieb is getting healed up as well. And I ain't gonna lie though, the entire time I'm thinking to myself, like, nobody's gonna mention, in particular Asta, you're not gonna mention that you look awfully like Yami with an eye patch. I mean, I know Asta can be dense sometimes, like he's a knucklehead, but geez, I thought the first thing he was gonna say is, Captain Yami, what happened to your eye? Like, the fact that nobody, or in particular, again, I guess the only one would be Asta, he's not saying anything about it. I'm like, I mean, maybe he's not as buff as Yami, but you don't see the resemblance? Am I bugging out? Did anybody reading the chapter, like, see the resemblance? When I saw the spoilers, I'm not gonna lie, at first, because I didn't get it, it was like a grainy spoiler. I was like, could that be Yami's father? And then I thought, no, wait a minute, he's too young. Maybe a brother, maybe a cousin, something. He looks like him. And it's also very weird now that I think about it, that we got a guy that looks like Yami, but again, we'll talk about in a second that he's not a relative, so to speak, seemingly. Then there was a robot that looks like Charmy, but it's not Charmy, it's a robot. It almost feels like a twisted dream or something. Like, what the hell? Because he goes on to tell Asta that he knows Yami, they were childhood friends, however he has not seen him since he was 13 years old. And that's about right, because I believe that was when he stumbled into the Clover Kingdom, and it would make sense. Although he follows up with asking a lot of questions, and I don't know, so wait a minute, your eye can see everything, right? You know about Asta, again, gets explained later on in the chapter, but he starts asking him questions like, does he take long dumps still? I don't know. Gee, why don't you use your eye and go find out, fam? Like, again, a lot of things that just don't seem exact, and it could just be that there's more to be revealed that isn't gonna necessarily mean that this dude is shady or whatever, but just feels like something's off, because he even goes on to further just start listing details and facts about Yami, like, hey, this and that, he's scared of bugs, blah blah blah. And I'm just kind of like, okay, why are you listing all these facts for? You said you know him, childhood friends. Like, are you trying to prove yourself? I mean, you already proved yourself with the dumps part, so. And then all the while he's saying that, there's a girl on the side that, again, kind of looks a little like a maybe older Charmy, you know, Charmy when she, like, ages up her design or whatever, like, kind of look like her again as well. Like, what's up with all the Charmy in this chapter? It's about to feel like, yo, rankings are low right now. I got an idea. Boom, Charmy. Like, and of course, Asta wants to hurry back, like, dog, yo, everybody's in danger. What am I doing here? And this fella tells him, like, yo, I understand you got your heart broken and you were betrayed and almost killed by the woman that you loved and the person that you looked at as a goal. And that pretty much with that eye patch, he points to the eye patch and says, I can see whatever I want, and that his eye tells him if he goes back right now, he will definitely lose. And again, I'm just questioning myself, so if your eye can see all of this stuff, why you never went, like, you know where Yami's at, right? You go on to talk about the Clover Kingdom being far from where you are. Why you never went to visit him? And why are you asking Asta if he takes long dumps if you could just go and see it with your eye? Don't you want to see what Yami's up to? Again, just could be inconsistencies on Tabata's part. I mean, he's human, but I don't know. Because then that girl opens up the sliding door and we see that Asta is in the land of the rising sun. That this dude, Ryuya, the shogun of this nation, apparently, he says, yo, you're a long ways off from your home, fam, and you don't have the capability to get back on your own merit, right? And again, it just makes me think, oh, so you know about the Clover Kingdom and that it's a faraway nation, but in all of these years. Never thought to, hey Yami, how you doing? No? And the chapter ends off with this dude telling Asta, hey, while you're here, might as well get a power up, fam. It felt just so like, I don't even know. Honestly, this chapter, it was very interesting. I've been dying to see this. It's been hyped up about Yami's homeland for a long time, and despite the fact that his key isn't hostile, part of me feels like maybe there's something afoot here, and maybe we'll be here for a little bit. Maybe this will be like the meat of leading up to us returning back to the Clover Kingdom to fight Lucius and everything, and probably by the time we get back, Lucius will have amassed his army and all of that jazz, so that's probably where we're going with it. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta ask you guys, what do you think about all this? For starters, do you think that this dude is on the up and up? Is he really just a childhood friend of Yami's? Why does he look like Yami, but he's just saying he's a childhood friend? Does everybody over there, the grown-ass men, are they all just Yami lookalikes? And also with his eye, if he's been able to see all this time, why he never went to the Clover Kingdom to fetch his 13-year-old friend? Like, so many questions. And your overall thoughts and expectations, by the way, just because I'm questioning things does not mean that I'm saying like this is trash. Like, I actually really enjoy the chapter. I like the mystique. I've always wanted to see this place. It's just kind of like, it feels like this dude is lying. It feels like he's lying, or he's not telling all of the truths. Maybe this nation really isn't as on the up and up as he's leading it on to believe, and who knows, maybe he wants to use Asta for something else, or it could just be that we're gonna get a power up and he'll send him on his way. Who knows? Any overall thoughts and expectations for Black Clover with chapter 338 and beyond? Ryuya, interesting fella, I ain't gonna lie. He looks like Yami to me. I thought that was Yami's father or brother or cousin or something when I first seen him. Which leads us to the final chapter of this week's episode, Jujutsu Kaisen 197. And I'm gonna flat out say it, and I'll say it over and over. I would be happy if Maki was the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm happy now that she's playing the role. She's legit, honestly, and majority of shonen manga, and especially right now, she is probably the most badass female period in shonen manga right now. I mean, I'm sure somebody's gonna pull out an example and say, but what about her? And okay, you know what I'm saying? Sure, why not? But she's doing it for me. She's just freaking epic badass. We had hyperbolic time chamber in this chapter with her. Like, she's damn near capable of holding down her own manga. I would be fine with a Maki spinoff as long as it's written by Gege Akutami. Let's be clear on that one, because she's just amazing. Because the chapter starts off with commentating that Maki is a different person now. Her time sumo wrestling, which this gotta be all-time most unexpected, shocking, what the hell training methods I've ever heard in a Shonen Jump battle series. Pretty much for the time she was training, the flow was different in that domain expansion of time. Essentially 1,000 of those matches that she had with Myo was only less than a minute. So honestly, it just sounds like hyperbolic time chamber, anyone, which kind of makes me wonder, dog, could they utilize that method? Like, could Yuji just go and stand inside of his domain expansion and train for like a gajillion hours and be able to master, I don't know, well, not master Sukuna, you're not mastering him, but pretty much could you use that as like a hyperbolic time chamber if you just stand in his domain, or do you only be able to kind of go through time if you're sumoing? I'm kind of wondering that. However, the samurai and Mio are ready to throw down against Naoya, and I'm like, I ain't gonna lie, they came out of nowhere. They were just a couple of competitors in the curling game, but they actually turned out to be some funny but interesting characters, so to speak, for this whole thing. Considering, again, dog, we are so far removed from the main cast right now. Like, first of all, we haven't seen Nobara in 100 million years. Yuji and Megumi aren't involved. Gojo's been locked away for a freaking century, it feels like. We're with Maki, that who would have thought became one of the most epic freaking characters of the whole series. Like, Gege has strayed very far from the typical shonen formula, and you gotta applaud that. Whether you like it or hate it, it's interesting and different. And I also found it a little bit unique and maybe almost destruction of pride and ego, so to speak, when the samurai and the sumo dude are talking, and when Noritoshi is like, yo, what type of people are you? And they're basically like this frivolous question, like, yo, we're whatever people think, we let that be up to other people, we're not concerned about that. And that's honestly somebody that has absolutely no ego, because most of the time people want their character to be written the way they want it to be. So the fact that they're selfless to think like, I don't give a shit, I'm what you think I am, it's on some, I don't know, Eminem, I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I sumo for 1,000 freaking matches? No. But thanks to that question, it gives Maki enough time to rush in on Naoya on her own, and ah, man, chef's freaking kiss to everything Maki related in this chapter, baby. Because it leads to Naoya raging, why can't I freaking catch her? What the hell? And definitely a very big touch of misogyny, which is kind of crazy that, so you could do a domain expansion and unlock it if you're just hateful and misogynistic enough. Like, Jesus, Gaga, where are we going with this? And we see a little bit of the fruits of labor of her training in the sumo, because apparently the surroundings of her are able to relay Naoya's movements to her. It's again almost even a little bit different than what I thought. I thought it was just basically like an ultra instinct type of thing. It's almost like becoming one with the world, so to speak. The surroundings are telling her what's happening. I mean, you could argue that's just a different way of explaining your instincts or some shit like that, but I thought that was again rather interesting and hard to explain to anybody in a battle series, how this character that was not even a main character, a side character, is doing some weird ultra instinct one with nature battle. Like, woo! But it definitely gets a lot deeper with her character. The fact that she starts explaining that, you know, having those glasses and needing glasses to see a lot of the curses and stuff like that, and then after everything that happened with Mai, it gave her a new body, and she basically almost felt content with it. Like, oh shit, you know, I'm like everybody else now. But being like everybody else isn't enough. Being normal isn't enough. There's things that only she can see, things that only Toji can see, and I love that it just keeps on referencing Toji over and over again. That's essentially her goal, so to speak, because she even goes a step further and comparing, like, yo, if it was Toji, he would have been able to jump up there. If it was Toji, he would have thrown the sword without thinking twice. Like, she is really aiming high, and I guess, hey, if you gotta aim for the stars, you know, what better way than to aim for Toji, so to speak, one of the most goated characters of the damn series. But jeez Louise, part of me feels like Gege dropped the ball in having him appear and get, you know, dismissed so quickly in the manga. Like, Gege, if you ever want to bring Toji back and have him have a little one-on-one with Maki, I'd be okay with it. Obviously, she needs a little more training because she's still not completely confident that she's on his level, but just saying. And it pretty much gives us a few examples as to where's Maki's level at, that, you know, this training that she got, she's able to even see the different densities in air. Like, she has truly essentially become one with reality in a strange way. Like, this is not just her instincts taking over. Like, she's able to see things that, again, most people can't see, including different densities in air. I mean, what other better way to explain it than that? And then her, along with the samurai and the sumo wrestler, are able to do a triple combo attack, slicing Naoya and sending him into an even further fit of rage where, yeah, Naoya, okay, your misogyny took you to a domain expansion, and it seems as though, I don't know, it looked like he was being resurrected, like his domain expansion was giving him a humanoid form because he just can't stand the idea that Maki is better than him. And sorry folks, it is what it is. This is almost like the representation of people that hate Maki solely because she's a female getting the spotlight in Jujutsu Kaisen. And you know, there's people that are out there that are like that they're like, get her out of my manga. Like, that's the representation right there, Naoya Zenin. And overall, dope chapter. I'm not gonna say it was the greatest in the world, but I just love Maki, fam, and I'm gonna keep on stressing it. It's very weird and outside the box of how she got these powers and essentially this hyperbolic time chamber situation, but I'm rocking with it, and I love Maki a lot. And that leaves us off in the final stretch of this show where I tell you guys my top manga to least, and I think it's a very, very easy one this week. One Piece, 1000% at number 1. There's no competition for me. And then number 2, I'll probably go with Black Clover, to be honest with you. This whole mystery of who this eye patch dude is, and I mean, he's not hostile, but what's up with him makes me question a couple of things. Also, finally seeing this land that has been referenced for so many freaking years. And then number 3, very solid at number 3. Like, if there was another series, it probably still would stick at number 3. Jujutsu Kaisen, Maki, absolute greatness. But that's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and remember, the winner takes it all. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell.
I have a dream, alone in my room as I sit with the tea. Couldn't possibly think what I often see, and you don't even know how I often blink. Lights be flashing and looking at me, such an odd unique, yet I'm so unique and you're looking at me. If the walls could talk, they would probably read bleak, and I'd probably say, bitch, get the fuck off me.